I came across a news story today about a woman from Hebei who made a down payment of 250,000 yuan to buy a house. She lived with her boyfriend and required him to pay 5,000 yuan in rent every month. Over the course of 3 years, she changed 8 boyfriends, and ultimately, these boyfriends helped her pay off the mortgage. While this might seem absurd, it is not a story, but a real event. Similar cases are not rare in real life. For example, there was a woman who, during the holidays, constantly sent messages to her ambiguous relationships. As a result, each of these simp men gave her an iPad, which was priced at around 10,000 yuan at the time. She received about 20 iPads in total, and then sold them to pay the down payment for her house. Just think about it, this kind of thing really happens, and it works so successfully. It's truly astonishing. These women really know how to get what they want through men. They not only know how to make money, but they also master a strategy for exploiting men. Nowadays, there are many such gold diggers in society. They easily acquire houses, cars, and even accumulate substantial savings through marriage, divorce, or cohabitation. The existence of this phenomenon really makes people feel that society's values and moral standards have been seriously distorted. In these relationships, these women often have no real emotional investment. Instead, they use these methods to squeeze money from men. This also proves one thing. While things can be randomly consumed, a girlfriend should never be casually chosen.
大家找女朋友啊，一定要小心啊，特别是那种主动的。
When looking for a girlfriend, you really need to be careful, especially with those girls who are very proactive. The more proactive a girl is, the more cautious you should be. I met a girl recently who was one of those types. She added me on WeChat first, and after chatting for a few days, I suggested we go watch a movie together. She quickly agreed. Then we went out for meals a few times, and overall, our interactions were pretty enjoyable. Just when I thought our relationship was progressing, things took a turn. Last week, she told me her birthday was coming up, and I thought, we've already been to the movies a few times and had meals together, so it's probably time to buy her a gift. So, I decided to buy her a birthday present. I went to the mall we often visit, planning to pick out a gift for her. Then, I called her to ask what kind of gift she would like, since it's better to buy something she actually likes. But she told me she was too busy and just asked me to buy her a necklace. I was a bit puzzled by this, but I didn't think too much of it and went ahead with it. However, what happened next really broke my heart. As I was walking around the mall about to look at necklaces, I suddenly saw her with another guy. The guy was someone she had complained about to me before, the one who kept asking her to go out and party. She said he was really annoying and always dragged her to bars. But here she was, walking around the mall hand in hand with him, completely unaware that I was behind them. At that moment my heart sank and I could hardly believe my eyes. She had told me that this guy kept bothering her, asking her out to sing karaoke and drink, and she said she hated him. I even suggested she block him and stop talking to him. But now she was with him, and on her birthday she had me buy her a necklace. This made me feel utterly disappointed. I immediately turned around and left the mall, feeling a mix of emotions. What hurt me the most wasn't just her betrayal, but her hypocrisy. She had been hiding her relationship with that guy from me, and didn't even feel guilty about it. She had used me as a fool, saying all those things to me while I was buying her a gift for her birthday. This kind of behavior made me lose all respect for her. Honestly, some women can be so manipulative, their intentions completely hidden. She is a typical gold digger. Nothing she said was true. It was really painful for me to experience this.
我发现捞女又有几种新方式来捞钱了。
In my recent experience of dating a girl, I found that gold digger women have come up with a few new ways to trick men into giving them money. First, there is a type of woman who will proactively suggest playing a game of truth or dare. She'll send a picture of a list of possible punishments for the game, enticing men to join. Among the options in the picture, some involve private topics or actions, especially punishments where the woman sends private photos. This is designed to spark interest in the man. Once you're drawn into the game, there is a step involving dice rolls. If you roll the wrong number, there's often a preset money transfer phase, usually asking the man to transfer, for example, 39.9 yuan for a milk tea treat, and then the game continues. As you play, you'll notice that the girl carefully controls the frequency of the transfer requests. Typically, after playing 3 or 4 rounds, you'll lose at least once, and have to transfer another 39.9 yuan to her. After a few rounds of the game, the man might end up transferring over 100 yuan, or even 300 or 400 yuan, without realizing it. Even more cleverly, during the game, the woman will deliberately lose a round to you, and then send you some private photos, stirring the man's emotions, encouraging him to keep spending money. In the end, she collects a decent amount from the man. The second scam is when some women get men to talk about playing mahjong, leading them into a trap. At first, the conversation seems normal, but then one day, the woman suddenly suggests playing mahjong together. The most skillful part is when she convinces the man to go to her home alone, with stakes that can be quite high, sometimes 100 yuan per chip. If you go, it's easy to lose over 1,000 yuan, or even several thousand yuan, in just one round, making it very difficult to escape. Finally, there's a third method where a woman uses a meal date to test the man's financial capability. This type of woman usually starts by being very warm and polite. After a few casual chats, she'll suggest going out for a meal. She'll send you a location, recommending a restaurant where the average cost per person is around 1,000 or 2,000 yuan, using this as a way to gauge whether you are willing to spend money on her. If you agree, during the meal, she'll act very cheerful, and then leave after the meal for some reason. Later, she'll message you saying she enjoyed the time together, and wants to get to know you better. However, her real aim is to test whether you have the financial means to support her. She's basically evaluating if she should continue digging for more money from you. For these types of women, the wisest approach is to simply ignore them. If you encounter a similar situation, it's best to delete the chat records and not waste any more time.
捞女还没当成我就得了抑郁症，想找有钱人，但是一直搞不定。
I used to be a failed gold digger. I originally wanted to change my life by finding a wealthy man, but I never succeeded. In fact, during this period, I developed depression. Although I was never formally diagnosed, from the time I was about 25 to 28 years old, I constantly felt physical and mental pain, with noticeable symptoms in my body. Deep down, I really hoped to rely on a capable, resourceful person to help me establish myself in Shanghai, to settle down in the city and live a better life. However, emotionally, I was always in a state of failure. I couldn't find the right person. At first, everything seemed fine with the guys I interacted with, but once the relationship progressed further, they would start nitpicking, saying that my height wasn't enough, that I'm only 1.68 meters tall, or that I hadn't studied abroad and didn't have a broad perspective, or that I wasn't the white, rich and beautiful type, that I didn't belong in the circle of wealthy people. These comments sounded like typical PUA tactics, meant to weaken me, create distance, and make me feel inadequate and inferior. Back then, I was constantly on the verge of tears, couldn't sleep at night, and often blamed myself. Sometimes, I would even blame my parents for not being successful enough to give me a better starting point. Looking back now, I realize those men were only using me. They didn't want to invest in the relationship, they just wanted to gain benefits from me. At that time, I had nothing, felt powerless, and was unwilling to accept it. I felt like a fish in a pond, waiting to be chosen. There was even a moment when I thought, those wealthy second-generation rich people didn't rely on their own abilities, but on their parents' wealth. If they didn't have rich parents, they'd be useless too. So, at that time, I thought I had to use myself to gain access to the circle of wealthy people through these rich men. But now, looking back, I understand one thing. The most important thing in a relationship is respect, not just material wealth. It is the respect and commitment from those men that should be cherished the most. Today, when I reflect on my mindset back then, I realize I was too eager to change my situation with the help of others. I thought that if I just found a rich man, all my problems would be solved. Although it may sound like I was materialistic, I want to ask, how many people in this world don't like money? If there is a woman who genuinely wants to marry a poor man, doesn't it seem like she might need to see a psychologist? So my thinking wasn't entirely wrong. It's just that I was too impatient back then and failed to rationally consider my emotional needs and reality.
现在的捞女跟3年前不一样了。
The methods used by gold digger women have changed significantly compared to 3 years ago, becoming more hidden and sophisticated. 3 years ago, they mostly used an approach of being hot and cold, flirting with men's emotions to force them to spend money. At that time, many men were easily deceived by this approach. The woman's attitude would shift between warm and distant, creating a sense of uncertainty that made men want to win her over, eventually causing them to spend money in an attempt to gain her favor. However, with increasing awareness of online anti-fraud tips, more and more people have learned to recognize such behavior, and many men no longer fall for it easily. As a result, gold digger women have continually adjusted and upgraded their tactics to adapt to the changing times. First, one of the upgraded tactics is letting you have a taste. In the past, they would create a sense of desire for the unattainable to spark men's interest, deliberately keeping them at a distance to stir curiosity. But now, in the early stages, they act just like ordinary women. They chat with you, go on dates, and even confirm a relationship with you to some extent. Everything appears normal on the surface, as if there's no problem at all. However, once the relationship is established, they suddenly start picking fights or becoming overly dependent, requiring you to spend money to placate them. At this point, you might feel that since she's your girlfriend, it's only right to spend some money. Unlike in the past, when they would drive you away from a distance, now they lure you into their trap first, and once you fall in, it's like you're caught in a carefully designed snare. From there, they will gradually increase their demands, drawing you deeper into the situation. Second, the upgraded tactic is giving you daily surprises. In the past, many women would send small red envelopes or gifts to their backup boyfriends on Valentine's Day or special occasions, waiting for the men to send back a larger red envelope. However, this tactic has gradually lost its effectiveness. Now, their 2.0 version method has become more flexible and meticulous. On ordinary days, a gold digger will actively invite the man to dinner, possibly spending a few hundred yuan to treat him, with reasons such as just making friends or thanking you for helping me with something. Afterward, they observe how you reciprocate. If you invite her out again and spend more than she did, for example, if she spent 300 yuan on you, but you spend over 1,000 yuan on her, that's considered gold digging. She will see that you have entered her game. If your reciprocation is roughly equal or, worse, you don't reciprocate at all, she will think you're not worth pursuing further and may turn to find better prospects. If she finds a target, she will implement the let you have a taste strategy again, enticing you back into her trap. These more subtle gold digger tactics have become increasingly common in recent years. Many men initially thought they had found a treasure girl and were entering a sweet romantic relationship, only to later realize they had fallen into a love scam designed to extract money from them. They find themselves unknowingly becoming tools for these women to obtain money. In such situations, men must stay vigilant and always keep a clear mind. Only after the relationship has truly stabilized and both sides are clear about the relationship can they enjoy it without falling into the traps set by gold digger women.
我就是一个捞女，我很现实，很物质。
When I was younger, I was the kind of very practical and materialistic woman, the kind people refer to as a gold digger. I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. Looking back at my 20s, I had a close-knit group of girlfriends, all of whom are now married to very wealthy men and live in big villas. My goal back then was simple: to find a rich boyfriend and change my fate through him. At that time, like my friends, I dreamed of marrying a rich second generation and enjoying a better standard of living. Perhaps you can understand that kind of thought when you're young, especially since my expectation for the future was to live a better life through a man. In fact, I often wondered why I thought this way. It's simple. I grew up in a relatively privileged environment. My father, when I was still in kindergarten, used to pick me up in a car that no one else had. I always felt so proud sitting in that car, thinking I was special. I remember when kindergarten ended each day, I would run to the gate to meet my dad, and when we went home, there would be a crowd of people looking at me with envy. Back then, I truly felt special, very proud. My father was also very conscious of his image, and that feeling stayed with me until today. However, later my father's business failed, and our family's financial situation changed. That sense of superiority disappeared along with it. Gradually, I realized that as an adult, I still longed to find a man to replace the sense of superiority and security that my father had once given me. I wanted to feel safe and fulfilled again through this. So, I met a man in Beijing who could give me that sense of security. He lived in a 4-story villa and had 2 housekeepers.
Every time I visited his home, it felt like I was living in an entirely different world. I remember at the time, he would pick out clothes for me, buy me handbags every month, and sometimes I would even run into some celebrities in his neighborhood. I truly felt like my fate had been changed, and I was finally living the life I had always dreamed of. However, none of this lasted for long. When we broke up, I felt a sense of helplessness like I had never experienced before. I will never forget the moment when he called me to tell me it was over. At that moment, my world seemed to collapse. I had once thought that my sense of security came from him, from his wealth and status. But when it was suddenly taken away from me, the deep sense of loss left me in pain for a long time. After the breakup, I would cry myself to sleep almost every night, drowning in sorrow. That period made me realize that relying on a man would never truly give me security. It was also that year that I made a decision to start my own business. Although my decision to start a business wasn't solely because of the breakup, it was undoubtedly an important turning point in my life. Through entrepreneurship, I decided to take control of my future myself, rather than relying on anyone, especially a man. From that point on, I told myself that I would be responsible for my future, and all my decisions would be made by me, without depending on anyone. Today, I still thank that former boyfriend because he helped me find my true direction. Now, I no longer entrust my life to a man, and I no longer worry about so-called scumbags or other men. When you focus all your attention on improving yourself and focus on your own growth, you'll find that the right men who truly love you will be around you, and you can choose the one who suits you best. Now, I am not only focused on providing myself with a sense of security but also on managing my career well. That has become the meaning of my life. So, sisters, true security doesn't come from a man, it comes from within yourself. When you become strong, have your own goals, and a sense of purpose, you will feel the power of life. Only when you are strong, are you truly strong.
This news today is about a woman who made a down payment of 250,000 yuan to buy a house. But over the course of 3 years, she changed 8 boyfriends. In the end, she used these 8 boyfriends to help pay off her mortgage. I wonder if, like me, everyone feels both shocked and angry after reading this. I have emphasized countless times, as men, we must understand what is a transaction and what is love. When a woman talks to you about love, or even lives with you, but you are the one spending money and she never spends a dime, then you have to realize, she doesn't love you. She's using you. She sees you as an ATM. Don't you understand this concept? There are many men who have the mentality of being the provider, the big man thinking. They seem to believe that as a man, it's only natural to spend money on women. They think, look, this girl is already living with me. She has made some effort too, so it's only reasonable that I spend money on her. I know that many men think like this. Many men believe that if a girl is willing to live with you, she's already making a kind of sacrifice. So, many men are willing to foot the bill. Isn't this typical transactional thinking? If that's the case, then you deserve to be cheated. You need to understand that if this were truly a transaction, you could save a lot of money, right? But you think it's about feelings, and in the process of giving your feelings, you spend a large amount of money. So she uses your feelings as leverage, amplifying it to no end. So, what is real love? It's a two-way exchange of money. For example, if you give her 10 yuan, she should at least give you 5 yuan, right? That's what love is. Many men can't understand this, which is why they end up in this situation. Why are there so many money-grabbing women in society? Because too many men don't understand these principles. If every man were more shrewd, would there still be so many gold diggers in society? We can't change the overall societal environment. But as men, we must start with ourselves. We need to awaken and stay clear-headed. We must realize that we shouldn't treat women as a transaction or a business deal. Therefore, men should spend money on themselves to improve their overall abilities. If you can improve your external image, your eloquence, your mindset, and your lifestyle, you will attract a woman who truly loves you and is willing to share responsibilities with you. As for those men who try to attract women by spending money, they are highly likely to meet women who only know how to take without giving, which will leave the man exhausted, giving more and more while receiving less and less. Friends watching the screen, do you agree with my viewpoint? Let's discuss it together. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us, and we will continue to provide better shows for you. Thank you again for watching. See you next time.